Sponsored by the UPS Store Canada.
There's nothing like a cup of lukewarm piss in the morning. I'll tell you. Been driving around with it for like over 40 minutes.
Looking for parking.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Terry DeMonte. That's Ted Bird. And it's another edition of the Standing By podcast for the 19th of February, post-snowstorm in Montreal as we're recording this.
I see you got the memo about the dark gray sweatshirt.
I did.
Or T-shirt, I should say.
Yeah,
that's good. We're in uniform.
Yeah, we're in uniform. And just before we get started, I just want to quickly say hello and happy anniversary to my mom and dad who just celebrated 68 years, not 66 years like I do every year. I post the wrong amount of years because I do the math wrong.
Well, it's a lot of years.
It is a lot of years. And mom and dad watch the podcast on YouTube every week.
And I saw their pictures on Facebook,
Yes.
pictures plural, because a bunch of people from the family posted. They look fantastic.
They sure do.
Yeah.
They really do. They've, as I said in my post on Facebook, mom and dad are on an incredible journey, and we've been lucky enough to be part of it.
Yeah, and they're old school, through thick and thin.
Absolutely.
Through thick and thin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't see that a lot anymore.
Both my mom and dad will tell you that. You got to, you ask them what the secret is, and they often say you got to compromise and stick with it.
Yep.
And that's the secret to.
And you got to love each other, and clearly they do.
And boy, do they ever. Yeah. So happy anniversary again, mom and dad. And thanks to everybody who posted on the Facebook page wishes for my mom and her birthday and their wishes on their anniversary, recent anniversary. Our title sponsor is the good people at UPS.
I have something I have to ship.
Yes.
I brought it to show you. Now, if you're listening
you brought something
and not
in.
watching, I'll have to describe it for you. So you can tell me, Terry DeMonte.
Yes, sir.
How easy it's going to be for UPS to ship this for me.
Okay.
David Garfinkel bought this for my mom at the Super Bowl party a couple of Sundays ago.
Okay, let's have a look.
David hosted the party and then bought stuff at the silent auction, including this. It's a Montreal Canadiens Centennial commemorative plate.
That's beautiful.
Like it's essentially a dinner plate, but you wouldn't eat off of it.
You'd
This
put
is
that up
something
on
you
the
would
wall.
mount on the wall.
Yeah.
Or your wall unit.
Absolutely.
And it's stunningly beautiful, and David bought it, and he gave it to me, and he said, I want you to give that to your mom.
Oh,
'Cause
that's so sweet.
He knows my mom is a big Montreal Canadiens fan.
Lovely.
He wanted her to come up for the game when he invited us to the private loge that night. But the trip from New Brunswick at her age and with her mobility issues, which are not overwhelming, but enough that she can't try. She doesn't. It's not that she can't. I suppose she could, but it's just too much.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah. So David bought her this.
Nice.
So I have to ship that down.
Absolutely.
What's going to happen with that? Packing peanuts, a box. What?
I would imagine for that, my guess is, and I don't own a UPS store, although there are over 400 of them now across the country.
I'll take that one out to Il Perot to the Livermans.
Yes, and my guess is they're going to bubble wrap that for you. They're going to bubble wrap that and get it in a safe carton, and it will arrive in one piece and safely. Have we spoiled the surprise for your mom?
No, she already knows. I already sent her a picture of it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. I can't keep a surprise. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no
Look what
kidding.
David bought for you, Mom.
It's the UPS Stores Canada. You can go to the website and see what they're all about. And if you don't know what they're all about, you can visit them. They're, like I say, over 400 locations across the country. They're all entrepreneurs, maybe like yourself if you run a business, that will help you with your business or help you with things just like this. You want to send something to your mom across the country and you want it properly shipped and you don't want to have to worry about it. The UPS Store. Go to the upsstore.ca and you'll find a location near you. If you're listening in Montreal, they're everywhere. There's a bunch of them on the West Island, Sources Road, out in Il Perot. There's one up in the Laurentians and St. Sauveur. They're all over the place. Just go to the website. The UPS Store Canada they'll fix you up. They'll help you out.
So in the wake of 2 snowstorms in 5 days, how difficult was it for you to get down here today?
Well, I believe it or not, I came into town yesterday because I had a couple of things that I had to do. And I jumped in the truck and I thought, well, let's see. They tell you not to travel. And a friend of mine, John Singer, old friend of mine, was in from Los Angeles and he had come a long way and his only day free was Monday. So We made plans to meet at Snowden Dell, and I got in the car and I said to him, if there's whiteouts or trouble, I'm going to turn around. So,
well, Monday was post-storm,
Yes.
but it was still very cold
very windy.
and very windy.
And the city was inundated, and they were just beginning to get the plows
The bike
out.
paths were very clean.
Yeah,
Did
absolutely.
you see my post?
I did.
From Brendan Kelly's
Yeah.
Facebook page. Brendan Kelly, a journalist with the Gazette, posted two pictures from NDG. Sidewalk totally buried in snow. Bike path plowed down to the pavement.
Yeah.
For the three people who ride their bikes.
Yeah,
in the
it's
winter.
been going on for years.
Yeah.
And
It sounds like the punchline to a joke,
Yeah.
but it's real.
and every winter it's the same. And every winter there's a post like that. And every winter they don't give a shit.
No.
They just do what they do.
We got over 70 centimeters all told between the two storm systems that blew through. And it spawned a couple of Good Samaritan stories in my experience. I got stuck on Thursday in my neighborhood. I took a turn too wide. There was a car coming the other way. The street was plowed, but it was not as wide as usual. And I took the turn too wide and ended up in the snowbank and completely beached my car. I wasn't going anywhere.
Wow.
So I called Dave's Towing. And Dave has bailed me out of so many jackpots. Flat tire, dead battery, and now this. And I called him up and he said, might be a while.
Yeah.
And it was half an hour.
Oh, that's not bad.
And his driver, Rob, was there in half an hour.
Wow.
And he pulled me out of the snowbank and sent me on my way. Otherwise, I might still
Be in the
be
snowbank.
sitting there. Yeah. So thank you, Dave. And I can't recommend Dave enough. And the thing I like best about Dave's Towing, well, there's a bunch of things I like about Dave's Towing, but one of the things I like best is when you call, you know who answers?
Dave?
Dave.
That's great.
Dave's Towing. Is that Dave? Yep.
Speaking. That's great.
So thanks, Dave. And also I want to thank Charles at Group PL Landscaping and Snow Removal. He was doing driveways on the street where I was stuck.
Yeah.
And he tried to push me out with the, the tractors that
Yes.
do the driveways.
Yeah.
He tried to push me out and it just
didn't work?
It wasn't going anywhere. And and my friend Zach came up and he had a look and he said, Sled, you got to call the tow truck. That's
Yeah.
the only way you're getting out. And also, I sat there in total between the time that I first got stuck and then Charles tried to push me out and then Zach came by and then I called Dave. I was probably there an hour to an hour and a half in total. So probably, 100 people drove by, fairly busy residential street in Point Claire. One person stopped and asked if there was anything they could
Really?
do. One person.
Wow.
Peter Bailey. So thank you, Peter. And Peter actually put on my Facebook page, he said, was that you who my son and I stopped and you were stuck the other day? And I said, yes, that was me. Thank you for stopping.
That's nice.
Only guy who stopped. But Dave came through. Charles from Group PL Landscaping in Norval gave it his best shot. So there are good people out there.
There are, and I'm going to tell you a similar story in just a second. I'm glad Peter's name wasn't Bill because I would have burst into song. Won't you come home and Billy? Won't you? I always burst out into song from the 30s.
Yeah. If you were alive during the war, you'll get that reference.
So I started to tell you yesterday, I ended up coming into town, and I think I went to the store where the hat trick, the hat store where they came up with the
Henri
hat.
and Henri.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a great store.
It's a beautiful store, and the proprietor is like unbelievably lovely.
What were you doing there?
Well, it's a long story about my wife's grandfather had his 80th birthday,
Okay.
and he needed she wanted to buy him a new cap, and with the help of FaceTime and the lovely man in the store and my broken French and his, I felt, wonderful English, we got it done. And the upside of going into town on a day like yesterday, right after a snowstorm, is the good news is there aren't many people on the roads. The bad news is you have to park in a snowbank. You just nowhere to park. So that was one of the errands that I took care of. And then I had my lunch meeting I started to tell you about, and was bringing Snowden Deli treats home for the family, my wife and her grandparents. And I'm shooting up the 15 and toddling along, and somewhere just around St. Jerome, the car, and I drive a 2022 SUV, and I'm driving the left-hand lane at about, 115 kilometers an hour, and the car starts to go and
just like in the cartoons.
Yep. And I gaze down at the dashboard. There's no warning lights, and I figure this is a problem I ain't solving. I've got to get to the right. And the car quickly begins to lose power, and it's not taking any gas. And somehow, through the grace of God, I got from the left-hand side to the right-hand side of the Laurentian Autoroute at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's busy. And where the car finally gives out is the exit lane. Not the shoulder. There's no shoulder where I end up. It's the exit lane. And now I'm stuck with traffic coming up behind me.
And you're blocking the exit lane?
And I'm blocking the exit lane. And, you know, on the Laurentian Autoroute, not everybody's going 35 kilometers an hour. So I thought to myself, I panicked a little bit. I have to be honest. I panicked a little bit. I wasn't sure what to do. They tell you not to get out of your car. And what did I do?
You got out of your
I
car.
popped my four-ways on, and I jumped out of the car because I was terrified of somebody bashing into the back.
Yeah.
So I'm waving the traffic like I'm
waving them over
I'm
to
trying
pass you.
Yeah, I'm trying to look like one of those inflatables in front of the car,
Yeah.
you know, trying to get them to their attention, because not everybody's paying attention these days on the road. And traffic is like flying by me. And when you're standing at the side of the highway, it's terrifying. So I figure I better get my hood up. So I go around to the driver's side, and I, pull the lever. I pop the hood, and what do? I call Jess, and I FaceTime her, and she screams at me, "What are you doing out of the car? Get in the car!" So I'm in the car with traffic shooting by me, and
But at this point, your hood's up, so people know that you're broken down.
Yeah, but they're not paying attention.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people coming up behind me at the last minute and swerving to the left as I brace for somebody to bash into the back of me. And I called 911 as per Jess's instructions. And I had a very nice lady explain to me that I should be sitting in the car, and she was going to call a tow truck, because if you're on the Laurentian Autoroute, a provincial highway, you can't call your own tow truck. You've got to call the highway tow truck. And the highway tow truck comes and parks in front of you, and there's a big sign on the back of the tow truck that says, "Stay in your vehicle," in French. So while I'm waiting for this to happen, a semi-truck pulls up behind me with its four-ways on. And I think, is he stuck now? Like, is he having a problem? And I look up at the driver. He pulled about, 30 feet away from me with his four-ways on. And it dawned on me what he was doing was blocking traffic.
He was protecting you.
On my behalf.
Yeah.
He was protecting me, and he motioned for me to get in the car. And that man, we looked up the company, that man from Transport Stéphane Lachaine in Saint-Sophie sat there with his flashers on for over a half an hour and made sure that nobody bashed into the back of me.
Stayed there until the tow truck came?
Yes.
Nice.
That's a good Samaritan.
Yep, big
That's
time.
a really good Samaritan. Because truck drivers, they've got schedules and routes and whatever. And I was so grateful to him, because what happens when you're stuck on the highway, when the tow truck comes, the tow truck driver doesn't get out of the car until the provincial police arrive. And so we sat there on the side of the road for a half an hour at least. And the truck driver drove away when the cop arrived. That's when he drove away.
Wasn't your car just in the garage
It
a week
was.
or two ago for maintenance?
It was. Yeah, so I was rather pleased.
Yeah.
I have a 20, I'm not going to mention the vehicle or the
Yeah, but it's a late model SUV
Yeah.
with relatively low mileage.
49,000 kilometers on it. And if you're asking me why I didn't have it towed to the Mersons, There are
The Mercens is a long way from St. Jerome.
at $3.50 a kilometer.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
So I had it towed to the dealer, which is in Laval, because my car is still under warranty. It gets
Right.
fixed for free.
Yeah.
And we brought it there, and I guess all's well that ends well. But there was a couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, when you see somebody on the side of the road, because, if it's never happened to you, you sort of don't give it any thought. But when you see somebody on the side of the road, it's terrifying. If it happens to you, stay in your car and call 911, and the cops will send a tow truck, and the cops show up to protect you. Because I see a lot of people on the side of the road doing work on the car and stuff. It's not a good idea. It's very, very dangerous. And I asked the tow truck driver about it, and he said, we're not allowed to get out of the car. We're not allowed to get out of the truck until the police arrive to save accidents and injuries and all of the rest of it. So I wanted to say thank you to the nice man. I didn't get his name. I didn't go to the truck because I would have been mowed down by traffic. But the nice truck driver from Transport, Stéphane Lachane, who did that for me, I thought that was really quite remarkable. Because he saw me with my flashers on and thought, this guy's in trouble and it's dangerous for him and I'm going to stop.
Adversity brings out the best in good people.
I think so, yeah. I was really, it took the sting off the whole thing happening.
Yeah.
Because, when you drive a relatively new car, 2022 is not an old car.
No.
You don't think about it. You just think, well, of course I'm not going to have trouble. It's a relatively new car. Anyway, that was my my little adventure yesterday. And while we're talking about driving, could I just say two quick things? Number one, if you're afraid to drive in the snow, don't. Don't go out.
Yeah.
Like, if you're terrified by
Get in
what
bed, pull the covers
Yep.
up over your head and
Yep.
stay there until spring.
And if you do go out in the snow, it's a good idea if you can see out your back window. That's my driving tip.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, if you're on the road with your back window covered in snow and you're too afraid or scared to go more than 60 kilometers an hour, get over to the right-hand side of the road, please. Would you? Thank you. That's my public service announcement.
I think you can also be stopped and fined by the cops.
You
if
can
if
be,
you're,
but I don't understand. And you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly
right?
which. The same people who don't brush the snow off the top of their
What
car.
knuckle to the steering wheel,
Yeah.
like hanging on
Yeah.
for dear life with their chin tilted up, looking up to the sky, hoping that nobody's going to bang into them. Looking like it's really. I look at the people like that and I think, wow, why didn't you just
What's
leave
so
it till
important
tomorrow?
that you're out here driving like this in a complete panic? I have one more Good Samaritan story,
Yay,
not
I'm
storm
glad.
related, but heartwarming nonetheless.
Okay.
Ryan's Candies in the Point Claire Plaza?
I
It's
do.
a British candy store, or a store that
Yeah.
sells British candies.
Yeah, this sounds like we're giving everybody in the world
No,
a
no,
plug.
no.
We're not. This
I go into Ryan's a couple of times a year because
Yeah.
if I went in every day, I'd have no teeth and a very bad case of diabetes. So I was there. I was in the mall the other day to drop off my dry cleaning, and I thought, I haven't been to Ryan's since last summer. I'm going to go over and get some chocolate-covered jujubes. I love chocolate-covered
You
jujubes.
do, eh?
I love them, and they have them. So I get a bag, I go up to the cash, and I realize, shit, my wallet's in my other coat. So I said to the young guy at the cash, I said, listen, I forgot my wallet. I said, I'll go home and get it and I'll come back. And he said, no, don't worry about it. I got it. I'll pay for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His name was Mac. Well, his name still is Mac, unless he changed it in the last few days. So I went back a couple of days later. It snowed the next day, so I had to wait like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And I went back and I repaid him what I owed him.
Was he surprised to see you?
A little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But I thought
sweet. I
that
love
was
that.
that was such a nice gesture,
I love that
because he,
story.
like, obviously he knew I wasn't trying to pull a fast one for a $4 bag of candies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he saw that I was disappointed and a little bit embarrassed, and he was just like, "Don't worry about it, I got it."
Jujubes are my favorite candy. They're at they're number one on my list in terms of treats. but not chocolate covered.
Have you tried?
Chocolate ruins it.
Have you tried them?
No.
They're so good.
No.
They're so good.
I have to be careful when I eat them because when I eat them, I do the.
Well, who doesn't?
My wife's a big fan of that.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah.
I wanted to also mention. I already mentioned the trucking guy, but I wanted to mention. I don't know if you've seen this, but the SQ are on TikTok.
The SQ have a TikTok
they have
account?
a TikTok account, and it's kind of fun because there's a lot of there's a lot of that explaining radar and how they catch you and why it works. And so if you're on,
doing it with a sense of humor,
yes, yeah, and
that's nice.
I
That's
thought
good
that
to
was
hear.
kind of cool. Yeah,
because they take themselves pretty seriously.
Yeah, they
the
do.
SQ.
You think of them as if you've ever been pulled over by the SQ,
It's a different experience than getting pulled over by the SPVM.
It's not a band of merry men.
No.
Yeah, it's votre papier. Okay. I haven't had a date with the SQ in quite some time, and
No, nor have I.
I'm good with that. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. We should mention Sugar Sammy, and I want to mention Sugar Sammy in this light. What's our email address, Ted? You're much
Our
sharper
email
than I am.
address is standingbythepodcast@gmail.com. Standingbythepodcast@gmail.com.
So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see me holding the computer up to my nose because I forgot to bring in Geddy Lee's My Effin' Life, which I was going to bring in for you. Didn't bring that.
Right.
There's the beautiful wood carving that
That you
Sylvain
forgot
did.
last week?
That I forgot last
And
week.
again this week?
And again this week. I forgot
Okay.
that. And this week, to add to the pile, I didn't bring my reading glasses.
Well,
So everything
you.
is okay, no problem whatsoever. Should we explain it?
well, that's from an old radio air check of a drunk guy doing the news in Calgary.
And really drunk.
He's hammered,
Yeah.
like he's clearly come straight
Yeah.
from the bar or the party.
New
to
Year's
work.
morning.
Was it New Year's
Yeah,
morning?
it was New Year's Eve.
He opens his newscast by saying, "It's -4 at 6:03. It's 7 degrees." So he gets the news on 3 minutes late. It's 6:03, and then he has an 11-degree temperature swing in the space of about 3 seconds. And then he goes on just to kick every story around the block. He's incoherent. But every story halfway through, he'll go, "But everything's okay, no problem whatsoever. There's a fire in Calgary, but everything's okay, no problem whatsoever." And I think it was your theory was he's trying to convince himself
Yes.
that he's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that he's not going to be fired.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I've tried to find the tape for that.
Yeah, I had
I-
it for
I
many
can't
years, but
find
I
it.
can't find it.
Anyway, the guy probably is glad that it doesn't exist today. So I got this note from Jason Goldfarb, who was going to Vancouver, and he asked me about steakhouses in Vancouver, and I recommended Highs in Vancouver, which is a beautiful restaurant in downtown Van, and it happens to be where our wedding reception was when we got married almost 5 years ago. And Jason sent me a note to thank me. He said, "Thanks a bunch for your advice. We took it. We went to Highs. We got the table upstairs, which was a great recommendation. The steak was to die for. The cheese toast was amazing. And it's always fun to try a same restaurant in different cities." So he's been to the Winnipeg location, Toronto, Ottawa, and he said now Vancouver. What made the night even better was seeing Sugar Sammy before we went for dinner at his 7:00 show. Wow, even though I'm from Montreal, I did not know about him until I listened to the podcast.
Huh.
What?
How long has he been out of Montreal?
How did you miss it?
or does he live
Jason?
in Montreal and he was visiting Vancouver?
Yeah, I think I don't remember, but he does say he's from Montreal,
Right.
and he listened to the podcast and was going to be in Vancouver, so he bought tickets.
Nice.
Those 4 shows, by the way, were sold out. What an amazing show. I couldn't stop laughing the whole time. I loved how he insults everyone equally. I didn't realize that he was performing because he was here for the Just for Laughs Festival in Vancouver for 2 weeks. Lots of great comedians here, including some like Jerry Seinfeld. Again, thanks for the recommendation, and thanks for telling us about Sugar Sammy. It was a great evening all around. Say hi to Ted for me. Jason, thank you.
Sammy's not an insult comic, though. Per se.
Yeah,
he engages the audience and pokes gentle fun.
I know what Jason was trying.
He's talking about his crowd work.
Yeah, his crowd work, exactly.
Yeah, which is great. And
Yeah.
Sammy actually posted on social media this week how to access video of his crowd work on his website, sugarsammy.com. He's going down east now, and then he'll be back in Montreal in March, but those shows are all sold out. At last check, there were still tickets for the April shows that he added in Montreal.
Sugarsammy.com. And as we always say, do not wait to get tickets. For example, if you live in Vancouver and you listen to the podcast and you waited too long, you would have been beat because all 4 shows were sold out. Sugar Sammy, proud sponsor of the Terry and Ted podcast. So here's something I want to run by you. This really caught my ear, and at first I thought it was unbelievable, and then I thought, no, maybe it isn't unbelievable. So when I listen to radio, which is rare, I listen, like you, to French radio. And so I'm either listening to 98.5 or I listen to
BMP Spar?
Thank you.
Yeah. Which
BMP?
I think is 91.9.
Yeah, is it BMP?
BM as in Mozi Spar.
Okay.
BMP Spar.
So the guys were talking about Patrick Laine, a much maligned, much talked about, talented hockey player who can't seem to get his ducks in a row. Scored 9 goals for the Canadians when he arrived, and then went on a sort of disappeared into the background, got dropped to the 4th line, blah, blah, blah. Canadians fans know, that Canadians fans that, they obsess over this kind of, thing, stats, the whatnot. And one of the hosts that I was listening to posited that Patrick Laine's slump began when the new Fortnite was released. The game.
Right.
Fortnite. And
is he a noted gamer?
Apparently. And speculated that, like most gamers who are addicted to gaming, they're like, just one more, just one more, just one more. And before you know
that's
it.
the nature of addiction. Just one more.
And then before you know it, it's 4 a.m. and you've had no sleep and practice is coming up. Do you think that that's possible?
I think it's possible, but without any evidence, I think that I think that's a little bit irresponsible to throw out there, unless you have evidence of it. Unless Patrick Laine has said, you know what, I stayed up and played Fortnite until 6 a.m. and I didn't get much sleep. And sorry, I'm going to try to do better.
But I was. At first, I was like you, I was incredulous. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, these are 20-somethings with unlimited resources and funds to do as they please when they please. And if you're living on your own and you're addicted to a game, would that hamper your performance?
Yeah, absolutely it could. But again, I think it's unfair to throw that out there in the absence of any evidence whatsoever. I think that's just unfair.
But that's the nature of the Montreal Canadiens.
Well, of course,
media. Right.
Yeah.
Do you think Patrick Laine was a mistake in terms of the Habs?
I think it's too early to say.
Yeah, I do too.
Because he's a naturally gifted hockey player.
Yeah.
And when he was on that roll, he was really on a roll.
Boy, was he ever.
Yeah, and the fans were loving it.
Yeah.
So, it's too early to to make that to make any kind of judgment.
Right.
I would give him the rest of this season and one more season. And
you would, eh? You'd give him one more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a great hockey player.
Boy, I'll tell you
I know that he has been in the NHL's player assistance program.
Okay.
And I don't know what the nature of that was. It was, it was a mental health issue thing. I don't know if it was addiction of some sort or alcoholism, but he was in the NHL player assistance program. So any player who's been in that program, naturally, the speculation is going to ramp up even more when he's struggling on the ice. But I think he's just too good a hockey player to write him off after
I think so too.
Half a season,
or
a little more than half a season.
He shoots the puck, he's like a sniper.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like I don't mean in terms of a hockey sniper. I mean like a sniper with a rifle.
Yeah.
He puts the puck like exactly where it needs to go. It's fascinating to watch.
Where the puck, but nothing else would fit.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. And that's a hallmark of a great goal scorer, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think so too.
Anyway, like I say, I wouldn't write him off.
And that
yet.
And your take on it is that's unfair speculation.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. We're not going to veer. We're talking about hockey, but Ted and I had a phone conversation last night, and we're not going to veer over there.
No, you can find that on plenty of other. If you want to go there, you can find that on plenty of other podcasts. Yeah. We're not going to do it here because we can't win.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I just want to get one thing off my chest. This is a good place to get it off my chest. I just want to say Wayne Gretzky has done more for this country and more for the game of hockey than any other Canadian in history. And the country, in my opinion, owes him a great debt of gratitude. How do you like my T-shirt?
I agree with you.
Thank you.
What do you want to talk about now?
Okay. I was having this chat just before we went away. I buy my T-shirts at Walmart.
I get mine at Costco.
Okay. I'm not a
not a clothes horse.
Well, listen, I love a beautiful,
tailored suit.
Yeah,
sure.
I've got one tailored suit at home, which I don't have occasion to wear much anymore. I have a pair of shoes from Florence that I treasure, that I bought in Florence some
Italian leather.
Yep, 25 years ago. Your classic Italian shoes,
pointy toes.
Yeah, I have a Tom Ford tie. I bought that when I was working. Not
How much?
I think I paid $400 for it.
That's very reasonable for
a tie. Yeah. So I'm aware of quality and whatnot.
Sure.
But T-shirts, what are you going to do? You wear them, cats claw them, whatever. And so when we were going to go to the beach for a couple of weeks, I went to Walmart. I picked up, 8,
like a 4-pack.
Yeah, I think
2 4-packs.
Yeah, no, I bought. They were $8 each. I went high hog. I went to the where you have to buy them individually in their different colors.
Walmart Plus.
Yeah. So I picked up something. They were $8. And anyway, Jess said to me, "Can't you buy a nice T-shirt?" And I said, "Where do you buy a nice T-shirt? Every T-shirt that I look at, that's quote unquote a nice T-shirt, is like $60. I've seen T-shirts for like $130.
Yeah,
I'm not paying $130 for a T-shirt. To me, they're, you wear them. The cats claw them. They rip under the arms. You throw them out.
If money is no object, would you spend $130 on a T-shirt?
I'm not sure I could. Could you?
If money was no object, yeah, maybe. I'd have to see it. It would depend on the T-shirt.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy a whole bunch. I wouldn't buy 8 at $130 each.
You see things sometimes and you think, Jesus Christ, even if I had the money, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking for recommendations. If you listen to the podcast and you buy a high quality or a nice T-shirt somewhere that you want to recommend, please do. I would love to hear about it.
I like nice clothes.
I love nice clothes too.
I'm a big believer in the clothes make the man.
Yep.
And we had this conversation on a previous episode. Anytime I'm complicated, well, I'm always complicated. Anytime I'm complimented by a woman on something I'm wearing, I make a mental note of that. And I say, okay, I'm going to wear that more often.
Yeah. Well, you're always well-dressed.
And wearing a T-shirt.
Yeah, but we're doing the podcast, and one of the joys of the podcast is it's our ship. and we can do with it as we please.
We could
And
sit here with no pants on.
That's
if we
right.
wanted to.
As a matter of fact,
we could be.
we could be where
You can't tell.
listen to the Sans Pantalons episodes.
We'll rename the podcast Terry and Ted Sans Pantalons.
No, it's if you watch on YouTube, a lot of people I think, we're not setting the world on fire in terms of the amount of people that watch on YouTube, but there's between 500 and 1,000 every week watch us on YouTube. So how we dress casually and we like to feel comfortable when we're doing this, because I think that's an important part of being relaxed and delivering a fine product.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Speaking of fine products.
Yes.
Did you buy Jess anything for Valentine's Day? Or were you under orders not to celebrate?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. Well, we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day she's not a fan, and she has her reasons. And to be honest, I was never a fan. Did you get Valentine's when you were a kid in elementary school?
Oh yeah.
I remember one year. I don't think I got any. It's But I never was a massive fan. But as you know, I was single for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that Jess is like, it's a commercial construct. I'm not interested in. She said, we love each other. We don't need to.
Yeah. I've also thought that if you want to, if you really want to make an impression on a woman, send her a dozen roses on a nondescript Tuesday in April.
Yeah.
Versus Valentine's Day.
My dad has been sending, my mom loves yellow roses for 60 plus years. Every birthday, every anniversary, she gets her roses.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Does he ever surprise her out of the blue?
Oh, he's
with
done
something?
that before. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You want to surprise somebody out of the blue with something nice, go to Robert Richer Jewelers.
Yes.
In Dorval. They are selling and buying gold. Linda told me gold's I don't know if it's at an all-time high, but the price of gold is up. And Robert Richer Jewelers, if you have gold you want to sell, they're willing to buy it from you. And they sell Canadian gold and Canadian diamonds if you're on a buy Canadian kick, for reasons which we will not go down that road either.
Right.
But if you're on a buy Canadian kick,
that's the place to go.
Yeah. Gold and diamonds, Robert Richer Jewelers. February is Suicide Prevention Month. They sell a beautiful, beautiful bracelet made of obsidian and malachite. Sounds like something you'd name your two Irish setters. Obsidian, malachite, come here.
It sounds like a word that isn't a word.
Yeah.
That's obsidian.
Beautiful bracelets, $30. Half goes to the Quebec Association for Suicide Prevention. So it's win-win. You get a nice bracelet at a very reasonable price, and the Suicide Prevention Association of Quebec gets half of the sale price. Robert Richer Jewelers, great people, 309 Dorval Avenue in Dorval. Drop by and see them, and you can go on their Facebook page or their Instagram page or their website and see what they have to offer. But as we've said before, drop by and see them. Good people in a beautiful shop. 309 Dorval Avenue in Dorval.
Don't be intimidated either. You don't need to go in there with a huge credit limit.
$30.
Yeah, there you go. And we appreciate their support. Speaking of that, we should. Did we mention our lunch with Tom?
No, we have not, because
Yes.
we haven't been in the studio since we had lunch.
That's
with Tom.
right. Yeah.
Tom from Accutech Electric.
Yeah.
He tried, actually. He tried to buy lunch.
Yeah.
We invited him to lunch
Yes.
because we hadn't met him personally yet.
Yeah.
And he said, "This one's on me." And Terry, being Terry, said to himself, "Oh, no, it isn't." And before,
he's
a client, and we invited him to lunch. There's no way he should be picking up the bill.
Yeah.
So Terry snuck off during dessert and picked up the tab, which was nice. But Tom is such an interesting guy, and if he wasn't a master electrician, he would be a professor of philosophy at an
Absolutely.
Ivy League college.
Yeah.
He's so smart and interesting. And it was such a pleasure to meet him, and I look forward to meeting his wife, Trish, who was not able to come to lunch with us because she's busy with the office and with the kids. But it was great to meet Tom and to get to know him and to learn more about his business, which is another locally run business. And we like that. We like to support and promote locally owned and run businesses.
Yeah, and it was really fascinating to hear the story about the history of the company and the fact that it's
and the family.
That I was just going to say, the fact that Trish is, often with the kids, that gives you an idea of this is truly a family-run business.
Yeah. Tom's dad escaped from behind the Iron Curtain in the 1950s through the Alps on skis and eventually made his way to Canada. And in the 1990s, he started the company, Accutech Electric, and has since retired, and Tom has taken over. And it's just a wonderful family story, and like we say, they're nice people. If you have electrical issues or needs, AccutechElectric.ca. They do commercial, they do residential, and they are also Generac affiliated. If you have a Generac or you're getting a Generac generator, Tom can take care of all your needs there as well.
Accutech, it's ACUTECH.ca. Great lunch with you, Tom. If you're listening to this week's episode, thank you for the support, and thanks for trying to buy lunch.
Did you watch the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live?
We did.
Yeah?
Yeah. Jess and I said, let's watch it live. Mm-hmm. These days with the PVR, we were PVRing it and thought about watching it the following day, but we were too interested in what they were going to do. Because when you think of the amount of history that they had to cover, the amount of footage they had to watch, just musical performances alone was astonishing. And we wanted to see what direction they were going to go. If that building had caught fire that night, there'd be no entertainment industry left. The amount of people that were in the audience, it wasn't regular Joes in the audience. It was an A-list gathering like I have never seen before. Yeah, Steven every time they cut to the crowd, you were
there's so and so, there's Jack Nicholson, there's Kevin Costner.
Nicholson hasn't been out of the house or spotted. It's true. He's 87 now, and the last public appearance was 2023. And not only was he there, but he was on camera. And they didn't give him a lot of work, but ladies and gentlemen, Adam Sandler.
One of my favorite parts of the show was the celebrity questions from the audience.
Yes.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Keith Richards.
Yes.
Keith Richards, he gets up and he goes, I left a scarf here in whatever year it was, like 1994. Has anyone seen that? And then they cut to Zach Galifianakis wearing a scarf on his head. No one's seen that. Let's move on. Next question.
There was a lot of internet outrage about Ryan Reynolds being there, and I thought it was hilarious.
What was that based on?
Well, Ryan Reynolds and his wife are in this, Hollywood brouhaha with another actor. They're suing each other, and it's a big deal about harassment. I don't know what the details are, but it's on the front cover of all the tabloids. And when Ryan Reynolds stood up, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler said to him, "Oh, Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?" And Ryan Reynolds said, "Why, what have you heard?" And it was delivered in, his timing.
Yeah.
And he's speaking of a guy who's done so much for the country and has got his feet planted firmly on the ground. That's Ryan Reynolds. I thought that was very funny. I thought the most touching moment was Adam Sandler's song. Adam Sandler even got a little bit choked up.
Yeah, when he started with that, I thought, oh, no, I don't want to hear an Adam Sandler song. Yeah. But by the end of it, I was going, that was pretty good.
Yeah. Somebody suggested they should have closed the show with it. I don't think so. I thought Paul McCartney closing the show with something.
Big time.
And there was a lot that they left out. And there were a lot of,
Well, in 50, you're not going to be able to fill all 50 years in 3.5 hours.
And they ran over time. It was supposed
They went about half an hour over.
Yeah. And that's the power of Lorne Michaels and Saturday Night Live. It's like, we're going to go a half an hour over, and you got to hang with us.
My favorite skit by far was... was the Space Force alien abduction debrief. Kate McKinnon and Meryl Streep, Woody Harrelson, and Pedro Pascal.
Yes.
And John Hamm, who's got great comedy chops.
does
He's
he
got
ever.
great comedy chops.
Yeah.
And I don't know who the other woman was who was sitting beside John Hamm.
80 Bryant, I think.
But in particular, Kate McKinnon and Meryl
my God.
Streep.
Yeah.
I could not catch my breath during that skit, and I won't try to recreate it because I wouldn't do it any justice.
But the funniest parts, she's done that character a bunch of times.
Who Kate McKinnon has?
Yeah. And the fun, you can find it on YouTube. And the funniest part of her part in that skit is when she describes her private parts.
Yeah.
Let me just put it that way.
And had Meryl Streep ever been on in the role of her mother, of that character's mother? Because she referred to her as Colleen Senior.
I didn't notice that. We were too busy.
My mom, Colleen Senior.
I think I read that Meryl Streep had never been on Saturday Night Live.
Well, she hit it out of the park. Whoops, in that skit.
Yeah,
that
did
was just
she
terrific.
ever? Oh, she's Meryl Streep, eh? When does she not hit it out of the park?
Yeah.
She doesn't phone it in.
No.
I thought it was terrific. There was a lot of online, whining about what they missed and what they forgot.
Well, listen, it was like Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Some of it made me laugh. Some of it didn't. If there was any disappointment for me, it's that I was so excited when I saw Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
And then I hated the song that they picked for her to sing. It was Nothing Compares to You.
Yeah,
Is
it was
that
a
the
Prince
song?
song.
Yeah, it was flat.
Yeah.
I just found that to be very flat, and she's such a great singer and talented performer.
She's got such a great voice.
Yeah, I thought they could have picked a better song for her.
I don't know if you can find it online, but if you can, highly recommend it. I really do. And it's and for an interesting conversation starter, this month's Esquire magazine chose what they selected as the top 50 skits of all time. And I went through it this morning, and it was fun to go through. There's some lots of nice memories.
Yeah. And I'm glad they paid tribute to the people who've been lost along the way, the former cast and staff members.
Yeah. I thought it was a classy episode.
Yeah,
I thought it was
too.
a classy way to celebrate the 50th. And like I said, talk about your star list in the crowd.
Yeah, I was thinking of you when McCartney came out. That's my favorite. It's the end of side 2 of
Abbey Road.
Yeah. And that riff, that rock riff at the end of that, is that called Golden Slumber, or does that come after Golden Slumber?
Golden Slumber. Right.
Anyway, they break into that. It opens with the drum solo, and then they break into the guitar riff.
Yes.
And they just knock that out of the park.
Yeah, they sure
and
do.
he doesn't hit some of the notes that he used to hit, but who gives a shit? It's Paul McCartney.
That's what I was saying about when we talked about our time before Christmas in London. That's the first question everybody asked me was, how's his voice? Well, he's 82. He doesn't hit all the notes.
Yeah.
But I thought the same thing about Paul Simon at the opening of the 50th anniversary.
I thought he sounded pretty good.
I thought he sounded pretty good too. And what I noticed is as he went along, his voice seemed to get a little stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And Sabrina Carpenter, who's a very young star, who wisecracked that she wasn't born, like Paul Simon said, I sang this song with George Harrison in 1976. And Sabrina Carpenter said, yeah, I wasn't born then, and neither were my parents.
That was funny. And somebody put a picture of the two of them during their performance on Twitter and said, you can see Paul Simon's gotten older over the years, but Garfunkel looks great.
And I thought to myself, I hope somebody explains to Sabrina Carpenter what a moment that is for a musician, that you're standing next to Paul Simon.
She probably knows.
I really hope
that
so.
sounds like a joke that maybe someone wrote for her.
And the Paul McCartney thing, I was saying to Jess after he was done singing, having just seen him, when you go to see him for 4 nights, they become like, this is going to sound insane, but they become like friends, because we saw that song performed 2 nights in a row, and then a little break, and then 2 nights in a row again. And watching him perform it on Saturday Night Live with that piano, which is the piano he takes on tour with him, and all of his guys,
Were
including
those the same?
Yep.
The guys on Saturday
Those
Night
are
Live?
his guys.
That's his band?
Yeah, they've
Okay.
been with him for years.
So
and
that's
years
who you
and
saw in
years.
England.
We saw that exact band in
Okay.
England, and they are incredible, as you saw.
Yeah.
And it was really, really interesting to us too that we thought the same thing about Paul as he sang. His voice got a little stronger, and Jess said to me, "That's why he did those pop-up shows in New York City." Last week, as we're recording this, the 50th SNL has just aired, and last week he did, I think, 3 nights at the Bowery, which holds 500 people. And I think it was just
Rehearsal.
Just to loosen
Yeah.
everything up and do rehearsal.
Yeah, nice.
Anyway, terrific. I don't know what you thought, but I thought it was terrific and highly recommend you watch it.
I got a movie review for you from 1968.
Excellent.
I don't have streaming services, so I watch whatever I can find on Tubi. Actually, I still had Prime when I watched this because I subscribed to Prime long enough to watch both seasons of SAS Rogue Heroes. And while I had it, I started to watch the Sergio Leone spaghetti western classic, Once Upon a Time in the West.
Wow.
Have you ever seen that movie?
Yes,
It's
I
about
have.
10 hours long.
Yeah.
And it opens with a gunfight at a train station.
Yeah.
The scene is 15 minutes. 14 minutes and 45 seconds of that is a squeaky windmill, a buzzing fly, and close-ups of 3 guys who haven't had a bath or a shave in a month, looking at each other with darting eyes. And then Charlton Heston gets off a train, and there's 15 minutes of gunplay, and Charles Bronson
Yes.
gets off a train. There's 15 minutes of gunplay, and Charles Bronson is the only man left standing. And I couldn't watch the entire movie because it drags out too long, and especially for today, the attention span people have today, they're not going to watch a movie.
But Ted, it's Italian cinema.
I know. They're not going to watch a movie that long with scenes that long.
Right, I
but it
agree.
was an interesting, like a film buff or a student of film history
Yes.
would find that movie interesting because that's when that genre, spaghetti western, was in its heyday. And that, I guess, along with The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, is one of the classics, right? A Sergio Leone
Yes.
classic. But I thought to myself, if that fucking fly doesn't stop buzzing and that fucking windmill doesn't stop squeaking and something doesn't fucking happen in the next fucking minute, I'm turning this off.
But Ted, he's Italian cinema.
And,
1968.
A little closer to present day, and this was at the recommendation of my friend Zach, I watched a 2017 movie called The Foreigner with Jackie Chan and Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
Pierce Brosnan, who was James Bond for a number of movies, I don't know how many Bond movies he did, he's a way better bad guy than he is a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a great bad guy.
Is he ever?
And in this movie, The Foreigner, he plays a former IRA terrorist who's become a politician, but he's still playing both sides. He's kind of stuck in between. He's still caught up with some of his former terrorist colleagues, but he's also a politician. So now he's trying, through political means to resolve the ongoing troubles
Right.
between Northern Ireland and the British, and he's really good. He's so good when he plays a kind of a sinister character. And Jackie Chan is Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
At this point, he's 70 years old, but he's still kicking the shit out of everybody half his age.
What's
right?
it called again?
The Foreigner.
The Foreigner.
And I
I'm
thought
gonna
it
look
was
it up when I
I
get
thought it
home.
was a pretty good movie, and it's about the third movie I've seen where Pierce Brosnan plays a bad guy.
Yeah.
And now I look for movies where he is
Yeah.
the antagonist versus the protagonist.
Yeah.
Another actor who plays a really good bad guy, and you might not, it might not occur to you right away, John Travolta.
Yes.
John Travolta is a great bad guy.
I agree with that.
He did a remake of The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, which I think was originally a novel. And I think there have been 3 versions of it. And he did the 2011 version where he was the leader of the bad guys who hijacked the subway car. He was so good.
Yeah.
He reminded me of an evil Pete Marier.
He's a great actor.
He is. He's a fantastic actor.
He doesn't get enough credit.
He probably
for his
doesn't.
acting
No, because
ability.
everyone from our generation, at least, probably still thinks. You think John Travolta. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
There's all kinds of. I just went online to see if
The answer is Saturday Night Live. Go ahead. Back to you.
To see, because I've seen a number of Pierce Brosnan movies where he's absolutely terrific. And smaller films that you may not have heard of. He was in the remake of the Thomas Crown Affair. He plays in a film called The Rifleman that came out in 2023. It's the story of a guy who's in a retirement home who makes his way back to Normandy to celebrate his lost colleagues. And he's been in all kinds. If you Google Pierce Brosnan,
you won't find a thing.
You'll find a lot of handbags. But if you Google Pierce Brosnan, you'll find a lot of movies.
Nice purse. Is that a Brosnan? It is, as a matter of fact.
It's the kind of because one of the things you get pigeonholed as James Bond.
Yeah.
If you're James Bond for any amount of time, but Pierce. Daniel Craig, I think, worked his way out of that. I think even Sean Connery worked his way out of that eventually, too.
Yeah, well, you're talking about three extremely talented actors. But I particularly like Pierce Brosnan when he's a villain.
Yeah. Speaking of Daniel Craig, quick plug for, not a plug because they don't need our help, the Smartless podcast. There are 2 episodes. If you haven't heard them, I highly recommend. One is with Mark Hamill. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to love this one. And the other one is Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig, as James Bond, is kind of a sourpuss. And
he was my favorite James Bond.
Me too.
Because he was flawed.
Right. And I think a lot of people think he's a sourpuss because of the way he played James Bond. He's a riot. He's an absolute riot. He's a talented actor that's been in so many things that I completely forgot about. He was in a movie called The Power of One in the early 1990s, a film set in South Africa about apartheid. And he played an evil, I think he played a real bad guy in that one. He was a bad, I think, headmaster, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, if you're a podcast fan, and I am, I listen to nothing but podcasts in the car now. Smartless, those 2 episodes I think you will like. And I just, while we're talking about these entertainment things, want to say thanks to Rick. Rick Ewan sent me a note saying he really enjoyed the documentary about what was it called?
The Led Zeppelin documentary?
No, the La La Lulu,
yes, La La Lulu.
Yeah. What was it called?
I don't know.
Somebody thanks for suggesting this documentary. Anyway, it was a documentary about a pyramid scheme called Lulu La 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 Lulu La. Am I helping?
Not a bit, sir.
Okay, let me just see if I can. Lalu Rich.
There you go.
Thank you, Interweb. I appreciate that very much.
Would you like to do the tweet sheet?
I would like to do the tweet sheet.
I'm very excited about the tweet sheet, as I always am. I pull 3 tweets from Twitter that I think are going to make Terry laugh.
Yes.
And they usually get the job done. Let's see if they do this week. Matthews, our producer, is just getting them lined up. Here's one from @Taste Factory. Yankee Doodle sticks feather in his cap. This is called macaroni. Yankee Doodle's friend. Okay, cool. Listen, man, everybody's worried about you.
I never thought about that.
Isn't that great?
Like a feather in his cap and collar.
He did what? Fucking guy. From @QuartzJixler. People who are bad at metaphors are like that thing that does the thing with the other thing.
That's a good one for people our age.
It is.
You know the guy?
Yeah,
with the
the guy with the thing.
Yeah.
And from @Rocksteady Ricky, pronounces Aristotle like Chipotle. I have some questions about causality. No, that's above my pay grade, man. You're going to have to talk to Aristotle about that.
Like a good piece of music from Beethoven.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually what that reminded me of, the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is from a long time ago. If you've never seen it, it's Keanu Reeves before he became a famous serious actor.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. And it's about these two kids who go back in time and meet historic characters. Yeah. And they meet Socrates and call him Socrates.
Yeah. George Carlin's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they meet Beethoven and call him Beethoven.
That reminds me of I told you we've been watching a show that was on a few years ago called What We Do in the Shadows about vampires. And
you said that's very funny, eh?
Very, very funny. And one of the episodes is the vampires are invited to what they call a superb owl party, the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm a very big fan of a superb owl. Let's go to that. We should say hi to our friends at the Mersons. Not that we're running out of racetrack, because we have all the track we need, because it's a podcast, we can do what we want. Yep. But it's time to say hi to the Mersons. Yep. I was thinking about them yesterday, excuse me, because of the problem I had with, my car, my SUV that's, still under guarantee and warranty. So I could have brought it to the Mersons. Like, they can take care of that kind of work for you. But I was thinking of them more in terms of snow tires and all of the snow that was around. And it was just, I think, last week where I thought, it won't be too long now before.
It's the middle of February, Tara.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to be
We could still get clobbered in April.
I know, overly optimistic with having your tires put on. But in this kind of cold weather and this nastiness, if you're having trouble with the car and you don't know where to turn to the Mersons.
Even if you're not having trouble with the car, because this is, do you call it the shoulder season?
Yeah, I would think so.
Their busy seasons are fall, when everybody comes in to get their winter tires on, and spring, when everybody comes in to get their winter tires off and their summer tires put on. So they're not in the thick of the busy season. Now might be a good time to take your car in and just have them give it the once over.
Yeah.
If there's a bang or a rattle or something, if it's going chitty, chitty, bang, bang, take it in and let them have a look at it, because you don't want to end up like Terry DeMonte on the Laurentian Autoroute last week.
With the... Nice sound.
Yeah. The Mersons will take care of you, and they won't sell you anything you don't need, and they won't do anything your car doesn't need done. They'll just tell you if there is something that might need doing down the road, they'll give you some warning.
Yeah, and on a cold day like yesterday, I'll bet you they were busy, with batteries that, people let the battery go too long, or, a lot of people keep not much gas in the tank. And when it's minus 30, your gas lines can freeze. Those kinds of problems, when you've had that kind of trouble, call the Mersons. They'll be on it and will really, really look after you.
Good folks who know what they're doing. They're at the corner of Saint Jacques and Cavendish, actually on Saint Jacques, just a little bit west of Cavendish. Third generation family business. Yep. MersonAuto.com.
Right across from the Loop-de-Loo, the Provigo.
Yep, the old Loop-de-Loo.
Yeah.
Is it Provigo or a Super C?
I think it's not Super C's up the street.
Oh, okay.
Maxi.
There
Is it
you go.
Maxi? Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that. Just before we go, I wanted to mention, if you're an Elton John fan, you probably know this already because of social media. His new album, if you've been hearing a lot about it and was wondering
He's
when
got a new album.
Got a new album.
How old
coming.
is he?
He's 76 or 77, I think.
Look at him.
Maybe even 78, I don't know. He's in his late 70s. And he is a massive fan and helped propel the career of Brandi Carlile. Brandi Carlile is very, very talented. And Elton John gave her a final not a final, but gave her the big push that she needed. She's been an Elton John fan since she was a little girl. And when she became a professional musician, she wrote him and said, would you play piano on my album? And that's how they met. And they've become great friends. And you may have seen a video posted online of Elton in the studio doing his diva thing, throwing his headphones and saying, I don't want to fucking do this. And Brandi behind him trying to encourage him with his producer. Anyway,
So this was recently? This was
Recently,
when he was
yeah.
recording this album?
Yes.
Really,
Yeah,
eh?
yeah.
Come on, Elton.
But apparently he's still that crazy passionate, and said in subsequent interviews he wanted it to be as good an album as it can be. I'm excited about it. I must admit, Latter Day Elton, I was not really much of a fan of some of the stuff that he put out, but Bernie's involved, Bernie Taupin's involved, Brandy Carlisle's involved, and the snippets that I've heard sound terrific. That album is coming out in April, and I thought I would mention that. And I also thought I would mention,
La La Lulu?
no, Mae West's. I don't know why that popped into my head.
Probably because you're a Quebecer.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's just something to fill the void, I guess, with the marbles bouncing around in my head. I wanted to mention, I don't have the note in front of me, but Ted and I read the mail that you send us every couple of days or every day sometime. Ted was under the weather. You're much better now, eh?
Yeah, it
You
took
were-
3 weeks. I
Yeah,
had a
you were-
respiratory virus
Yeah.
that's going around, and
Yeah.
it took 3 weeks, but I think I'm all better now.
Yes. And somebody mentioned that they found the podcast from a recommendation that they got from a friend and have started to look at the old episodes.
Oh, nice.
And do you know we've done nearly 100? It's
Yeah,
not, you
this
know,
I did
it's
know.
not a big deal, but we're not going to jump up and down about it. But if you listen to the podcast, we've been doing it for a while, and some of the episodes that we have included interviews with the Gazette's Stu Cowan, Dave Stubbs from the NHL, the legendary Pierre Hood, Tony Marinaro, Stu Cowan from the Gazette, Freeway
You already
Frank.
said Stu Cowan.
Did I?
So that's twice you've said that, Grandpa.
See, there's something wrong with me. That's why my glasses are at home.
There you go.
And the wood carving is still
Yeah.
at home. Stu Cowan from the Gazette. Freeway Frank.
Yep.
We had a nice chat with him. Jason Rockman, our old colleague. Cleve Ziegler, the doctor man.
Cleve Ziegler, the director of gynecology at the Jewish General Hospital, and one of the funniest people I know. And when you combined the two,
Yeah.
it was just a great episode. It was one of my favorite episodes.
One of our most popular episodes.
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Leslie Chesterman, Bill Brownstein from the Gazette, Stu Cowan,
Yeah.
Bruce Hills, who's got a new comedy venture going and ran the Just for Laughs Festival for years. Sterling Downey, one of our favorite politicians.
Now a military reservist with the Black Watch
How about
Regiment at
that?
the age of 50.
How about that?
He joined at 50.
And your good friend, Steve Gregory,
Yeah.
has done so much for the Respect organization, which celebrates service in this country.
Yeah. Well, Respect Canada is basically an organization that brings together other organizations who collaborate on assistance for veterans and retired emergency or former emergency responders, including RCMP. They look for solutions for homelessness and post-traumatic stress that people in those trades in the military and in emergency response are wont to or are prone to suffer from, and they do excellent work.
You were just at an event this weekend.
Yeah, I was in Kingston, Ontario for the Veterans Flag Day dinner put on by Respect Canada, sponsored by Veterans Affairs Canada, and to benefit an organization called Homes for Heroes, who build small villages for homeless veterans, and do great work. And it was a lot of fun. And I sat at the table and broke bread with Senator and retired Rear Admiral Rebecca Patterson and retired Major General Dean Milner. And it was interesting to sit and talk with them and to get their perspective, to get a perspective on current events from people with experience, real life experience on the ground. It was fascinating and a pleasure and a privilege to meet them and to spend some time with them.
You should. After I had that conversation with you, I was thinking to myself, you should be very proud of all the work you've done over the years, Ted, with veterans, and the support that you show them is really been quite something.
Well, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, means something to me.
It does. I also, just as we're going out the door, I wanted to mention, I didn't have time to talk about this, and I don't have a clip, But you ever get an update on your phone that pisses you off because it changes everything? Or an update on your computer that comes automatically and it changes everything? And it becomes something that's supposed to help, but is an annoyance?
Not lately, because I think my devices are so out of
old.
date. Yeah.
Do yourself a favor and Google Bill Maher New Technology. Bill Maher, I'm a huge fan, and you know he does new rules at the end of his show, if you're familiar with it, and he does an editorial every week. And last week he did an editorial called New Rule, Newer, Not Better. And he talked about all of these updates and things and how the technology folks, the tech bros in California are busy updating and making things better that are just not making much better.
Making things newer, but not better.
Exactly. Yeah. He called it RI, reverse.
There you go.
Yeah.
Reverse intelligence.
Exactly. I highly recommend it if you want a good laugh. That's it for the episode, is it not?
I believe it is.
I think it is.
I'm out of things to say.
Yeah, I am too, and I just keep repeating Stu Cowan's name,
Yeah.
so it's time to go home.
It's been a good episode for Stu.
Next week, we'll be back. You can go to terryandtedpodcast.com. Is that right?
That's right.
terryandtedpodcast.com is where you will find clips, episodes, and you can email us there and,
A few people have emailed us and said, when's the merch coming?
yes, we're working on it. We're working on it. Ted's coming to my house soon, and we're going to have a long meeting.
With our executive producer, Jessica
Jessica
Dion DeMonte.
That's right. Correct. So you can find us anywhere. We'd love to hear from you. Like I said, we answer the mail. We answer all our mail, even the complaints. We answer all of them.
Standing by the podcast at gmail.com.
Or you can go to the website and email us there too.
Find the email address
and you'll
there.
find the episodes everywhere. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you download a podcast. Thank you so much for doing that. And again, thanks to the UPS store, Sugar Sammy, Accutech, our good friends at the Richer Jewelers, and our
Merson
friends
Automotive.
at Merson Automotive. Matthew, thank you. Appreciate it very much. Our producer, Matthew, at the Pantelis Comedy Network. Hope to see you next week.
Standing by, the Terry and Ted podcast has been brought to you by the UPS Store Canada, delivering more for small businesses in Canada.